My name is Debbie Yeager, and I'm the mother of an incarcerated veteran. Kyle had great role models growing up. His father and his uncle were graduates of the United States Naval Academy, and his cousin is currently serving in the Navy as a Top Gun pilot. However, Kyle's dreams of serving our country in the United States Navy was cut short by the war that was raging in his head. He was not sent to war, but he was discharged from the Navy because he suffers from ADHD, bipolar, and PTSD. The PTSD was a result of molestation at the hands of a high school coach who was well liked. I know that PTSD is most commonly associated with returning veterans from war, but in actuality, PTSD can be caused by any other traumatic event in someone's life, as was the case for my son Kyle. He was diagnosed with ADHD in middle school and was prescribed medication for this. It did help for a while, but when the medication would start to wear off, the chaos would just return to his brain. Of course, the medication that was prescribed, though it was legal, was a form of amphetamines. And just like the illegal street version, both change the chemistry in the brain, and you begin to need more and more of it to achieve the same results. So is it any surprise that a person with ADHD who decides to self-medicate chooses amphetamines to do so? However, I'd like to take a moment and give you a little bit more background on bipolar and ADHD. Imagine for just a moment that you're in a small room. You're surrounded by 20 other people in this room. They're all speaking to you. They're all telling you something different. Their voices are loud and nonstop. You have no way to escape this chaos. You can't leave the room, and the verbal assault just continues. This is exactly how our son described what was going on in his brain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He turned to drugs to try to quiet his mind, and that didn't work out very well for him. He's currently incarcerated for possession of drugs. The stigma that's attached to mental illness in our society today creates an environment of fear and reluctance to seek treatment. And those people that need the treatment desperately aren't willing to go and try to get it. Instead, Kyle chose to medicate, self-medicate, as do many of other people. According to Dr. Daniel Amen, who has been the leading researcher on brain disorders for the past 30 years, he states that a child suffering from ADHD is 250 times greater than his peers who don't suffer from ADHD to develop drug addiction later on in life. And if you add bipolar to this, imagine the increased risk that that person will have. The conditions Kyle suffers from created the perfect storm. He didn't really have a chance. Meeting Melanie Davis and learning about her progress within the prison systems and the programs that she created in helping veterans find purpose and meaning to their life, and also finding a way to forgive themselves, was the catalyst for me to speak out and open up about our son Kyle and share the struggles. These struggles were by no means Kyle's alone. We all suffered. His father, his brother, and I worried about him and suffered through this. Every night I went to bed wondering if I was going to wake up the next morning the mother of 2 children or just one. Every late night phone call made me concerned because I was afraid it was the phone call telling me my son Kyle had died. My friends and associates, I was afraid really to come out and speak about this because I wasn't sure how they would treat Kyle or us for that matter. But I realized that by keeping my silence, I was just perpetuating the stigma of mental illness. I know that this has touched other people's lives, and frequently they come to me when they hear my story and tell me about their own struggles with addiction or their loved ones who struggle with addiction, bipolar illness, or other mental illnesses, and even things that have resulted in them getting incarcerated. Mental illness doesn't discriminate. It affects people in all walks of life. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how little money you have. It'll wreak havoc in your life if you suffer from it. And until we as a society can accept mental illness as the disease that it is, no better or worse than high blood pressure or heart disease or diabetes, and allow treatment, those who suffer from this are going to continue to try to hide their illness and not seek treatment. Until more DAs become open-minded and embrace mental health court, embrace drug court, our prisons are going to continue to be filled with people whose only victims are themselves. The DA who prosecuted our son Kyle walked into a meeting of attorneys in his county who were advocating for implementing drug court and mental health court in that county, and he said 4 words: "I don't want it." That was the end of it.